checking in late for a little bit. I see these reporters are highly upset that Terence Crawford has gotten this win over Canelo Alvarez. I know it's been a lot of things going on, but I seen recently there were guys online that were saying how Bivol did much better, and you got people saying that Crawford needs to fight Bivol. He did not. Hey, I'm telling you right now. The fact that real fights are happening again. And you can't really hide behind narratives. Guys just saying anything now. You know, I get it. I understand. I definitely understand. I definitely understand. If people tune in, they tune in. But yeah, that's crazy for me to even hear about the narratives that's going on. But one thing I'm hearing right now that people are pointing out, they're like, oh, Canelo's body was breaking down or his body's not the same. I'm hearing so many people say that. I mean, he's getting older. Of course, his body's not the same. But to say he's been beating everybody else with the same kind of the way he is in this fight that just passed. He actually looked better as far as his stamina. Had no problem trying to cut out the ring in this fight. Well, he had problems cutting out the ring, but trying. Keyword trying. So he definitely tried. Yeah, he definitely tried. But people are discrediting Terence Crawford's attempts. Is crazy. I just don't understand that. I mean, he's doing everything you can possibly do in boxing, so I don't understand why him being somebody who is doing a lot in the sport is being questioned. If you look at what he's doing in the sport, he's doing a lot. This will not be duplicated anytime soon. You can guarantee that. This is not something you'll see in history anytime soon. Somebody's going to do. A lot of people know that. But yeah, him getting that win over Canelo Alvarez, it just shows a lot of these people that's been in boxing for a while. They just gotten away with pushing these narratives for a long time, and now you actually got to give guys like Crawford credit, and they just don't want to do it for whatever reason. They don't want to do it, and it's going to be hard to not give the best fighters credit when they're actually fighting each other. The only reason these reporters been getting by not giving guys like Crawford credit is because guys have been fighting each other as much. But as guys start to fight each other a lot more, less narratives. You can't really say, oh, well, he would do this. Nah, we already seen it. He didn't do what he said he was gonna do. So yeah, they can't really push the narratives like that. And that's what they don't like. And they also don't like that uh a black fighter lost to a Mexican fighter. A lot of people don't like that. That's the reason why they're so emotional about it, especially some of these reporters. Like Canelo had no chance in that fight. I don't even know why he's even being complimented. What's up, the goat? What's going on? Carissa, what's going on? Yeah, Crawford is going ahead and he might retire. You never know. If 160 don't have a lot of action, unless they've been waiting on somebody like him to show up, they haven't been moving that much. You got Danny Garcia, with Lara. It's not really a lot of fights at 160 they've been having. But she said this is the perfect storybook and movie ending. Crawford has nothing else to prove. Yeah, this definitely a movie. Definitely gonna be a movie on this one day. Never seen nothing like this in boxing before. And it's forcing a lot of guys, boxers, to look in the mirror and say, hey, I gotta step it up. That's why Canelo taking that fight was huge. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that, even the reporters. That's why a lot of them didn't want Canelo to take this fight, because it's gonna force a lot of people to want to fight each other now. It just is. If you want to be in this type of fight, if you're a boxer and you want to be in this type of fight and you want to be talked about, yeah, you gotta take the hard fights. He said Mexicans are crashing out right now. Yeah, that's what I was actually gonna talk about. It's a lot of people crashing out. But one thing I have not noticed, Eddie Reynoso has not been talked about at all. This man has not been criticized not once since the fight. He didn't help Canelo out at all. I mean, can we give him some credit for holding Canelo back a little bit in this fight? Because what was he doing? He gave the worst instructions. I don't know what he was saying, but the way he was just standing there throwing punches, I'm like, this guy look like he don't know what he's talking about. Canelo kept going out there doing the same thing, and Reynoso just in the corner talking to him. Yeah, just throw these punches. I said a couple of fights ago, man, Canelo should have got another trainer. But I wasn't gonna say anything. You know, he's Canelo, and people's saying how highly skilled he is, but for a guy to not be able to give you proper instructions in a fight like that, where you're making $150 million, he needs to be replaced. I would have got Eddie Reynoso out of there. Oh, it was a reporter that told him he ready for Mexican power. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear him say that. I know it was one guy that interviewed him. I forgot where he was at. I think it was at the Shakur Stevenson Zapata event with Berlanga. Man, it was a reporter that was looking at him, because I think Crawford had said something about not being afraid of Canelo's power or something. It might have been the same guy you talking about. And the guy was staring at him crazy the rest of the interview. He was looking at him crazy. I was like, whoa. Yeah, some of these guys are insane, bro. I'm telling you that right now. When I seen the way that guy was staring at Crawford, that reporter, I was like, man, these guys really have some anger in their heart, really, over this fight for some reason. I don't even know. I don't even think the guy was Mexican. That's how scary that moment was. He was looking at Crawford like, man, it was insane. But a lot of people want Crawford to fight Benavidez and Dimitri Bivol. You got reporters bringing that up. Benavidez and Dimitri Bivol. And these guys are fans of Canelo. Something they didn't want Canelo to do. And Dimitri Bivol made it easy on Canelo. He said, I'll go back to 68. If there's any time you take a rematch, it's at that moment. But the fact that he didn't take that rematch, he's not going to take a rematch, I don't think. I don't think Canelo's going to take the rematch. He took the rematches with Triple G, but that was like a mandatory situation because of the way everything was happening outside the ring. Yeah, it was just too much going on. So all of that kind of fell in place, and the money was huge around that time for those two. It's kind of almost the same money that's being thrown around right now, to be honest. Because him and Triple G got a lot of money to go to the zone. But yeah, a lot of guys they're crashing out right now. I mean, guys are saying anything about this fight. Talking about it was close. They're talking about Canelo's done. For people to say Canelo's done, come on, man. Like, don't be a prisoner of the moment. And there's a lot of Mexican fans saying this. Yeah, Canelo's done. How is Canelo done? Crawford has been boxing everybody like this. To be honest with you, yeah, he's been boxing everybody like this. Blowouts in every fight. And we've seen Canelo get outboxed before. The only difference is Canelo usually gets a knockout and it cleans up a lot of stuff. So that's why people went into this fight talking about the power. Because he usually gets a knockout, and then when you bring up that, oh, I thought this guy was winning rounds. And the reporters always said, oh, he got the knockout and that didn't really matter. So they're afraid for Canelo to get back in the ring, and he can't rely on the power. I told everybody the power is going to disappear. I don't think the power should even be talked about if it's not going to be a real discussion of why the power looks funny. If people are going to tiptoe around that conversation, just leave it alone. It's for the big kids. Because I'm hearing people say, oh, he's just done. He's not the same. Nah, his stamina actually looked better in this fight than the William Skull fight. In the William Skull fight, he looked like he was about to pass out. So he was in tip-top shape. So technically, in my eyes, he looked better in this fight than the Skull fight. That didn't help him at all. Definitely didn't help him. But you had a lot of people going into this fight that was very angry. You had Mauricio Suleiman said that Marquez was jealous because he was questioning Canelo's moves and saying the privilege of mandatories and things like that. Feel like it been holding up boxing a little bit. And most people would say that comes from Floyd or what Floyd did in that era. But for Marquez to be a guy who's Mexican and also he boxed Floyd Mayweather, he could be a guy that said, oh, it's Floyd's fault that things are the way they are. But he's not saying that. Marquez never says that. But I'm trying to figure out why these reporters over here that are crashing out right now, why they never point out stuff like that. I hold them responsible. Because after the last 2 or 3 years, if Canelo was actually out here getting better, fighting real competition, and not guys that was getting knocked out, he might have actually been prepared. Yeah, I don't think he's worse. I just don't think he's getting better. Usually when you get better as a boxer, you add something to your arsenal. Like, he's not getting better at all. It just is what it is. He's the same fighter that fought Dimitri Bivol, just not getting better. That's why I don't know why people try to hold certain fights to a guy get to a certain age like Terence Crawford at 37. Yeah, it's worse to fight him at 37 than it would be 34. At 34, you probably had a chance because he probably would have been more aggressive. But he's a lot more older, patient now. So, yeah, he had no chance going in there. I don't know why people don't think of stuff like that. Certain guys, you can't really age out, or you don't want to fight them when they're older. And that was just one of those situations. And it's going to be a lot of situations like that. I think this was just the first one. Well, actually, this was one of many, I would say, because Anthony Joshua had ran into that situation with Dubois, and people felt like Anthony Joshua was getting a little too older. And Usyk, the same situation. He's older than Fury, but people feel like Fury is older after that loss. So it's a pattern that's going on, definitely. It's definitely a pattern. But I don't know how you can go through all these years without giving Terence Crawford the credit of being a highly skilled fighter and having power too. The man was knocking out everybody. Most of the guys he's knocked out or stopped, they never been knocked out before. Most of them, and never been stopped. What's up, AR? What's going on? Yeah, RP Ricky Hatton. Yeah, Ricky Hatton had crazy situation with Ricky Hatton, man. Yeah, he had a fight coming up, so it's definitely crazy. Yeah, definitely crazy. I used to see him hitting the bag every morning. Like when I used to go on Instagram, I used to be like, why is Ricky Hatton always popping up? After a while, it just became a routine. I was like, okay, his videos popping up. I didn't know he was getting ready for a fight though until early this year. But yeah, that's crazy. Him passing away. Definitely one of my favorite fighters I've seen. Yeah, Ricky Hatton used to put on the show. That's definitely a guy who used to let his hands go. He said because most of the reporters were PBC meat riders, and they've hated Bud since he became. Oh yeah, that is true. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. That is a thing still. To some, not everybody, but yeah, I forgot about that. They were trying to be in everybody's good graces and be around the fighters so they won't be judged a certain way. Try to get interviews with certain people. Yeah, you're right about that. I forgot. Yeah, it definitely didn't work. I think that whole strategy is not going to work in the future. Uh, but also, a lot of those guys too. I would say this. Also, a lot of those guys, they still went out of their way to kind of like slight a lot of fighters from America, anyways. Because some of these guys, they'll try to act like they're American because they stay here, but then you start hearing the boxing viewpoints and dudes, it just get out of hand sometimes. You know, you can say what you want about Terence Crawford, but when you hear those same guys talk about other fighters, it's like nah. I see where they're coming from. Yeah, I definitely see why. Because Tyson Fury is not really a PVC guy or anything like that, but when they came to his mistakes in recent fights, you don't see the same kind of criticism. So as you would see if a Terence Crawford would have took that kind of fall, but yeah, these guys know what they're doing on all sides. Trust me, they got their viewpoints where you already know what they're gonna say before they say it. That's not a good way to go about things. Oh, it was on the zone final press conference. He said the kind of ball dude. Look at how he was looking at Bud after he said it. Yeah, that dude was, man. I'm telling you, if you look at the I think when Terence Crawford had like the blue shirt on, whatever, he was like backstage, had a couple of reporters around him. I'm gonna find it one day and pull the video up. Man, it was a reporter. I'm probably just show like 5 seconds. But if you look at the guy, he was smiling when Crawford was looking at him. Then Crawford started looking ahead, and it looked like his eyes got red and everything. He just started looking at him crazy. Like, I'm like, whoa, these guys are tripping. Yeah, these reporters are actually, they on some other stuff. Yeah, they gotta put respect on Crawford's name. They want Canelo to give him a reason to not give him respect, but they took the whole body excuse and ran with it. You know, Canelo was saying stuff about his body, and he said no excuses though. Like the guy won. I'm just not good enough. But you know, reporters and everybody else was saying, well, Canelo's body is breaking down. I mean, Terence Crawford is 37. He's about to be 38. Everybody's body is breaking down. I mean, if they said Anthony Joshua's body is breaking down, I'm pretty sure everybody else's body is breaking down as well. And he's still one of the youngest guys amongst the elite. But if his body is able to break down, yeah, Canelo and anybody is not safe. That's no question. Yeah, they can't do it anymore though. They do that like fans. They cannot do this anymore. Terence Crawford, Canelo accepting that fight has knocked out a lot of narratives. They can't talk about Canelo going back to get Bivol or 175 or um anything. All that stuff is out of the way now. Now they got to jump behind Benavidez if they want to support a Mexican American fighter or a Mexican fighter who's in the higher weight classes getting it done, especially above 168. There's no elite Mexicans that's competing with Bivol right now, besides Benavidez. So they're gonna have to make their choice very soon. They all know it. That's why they're hoping that Crawford goes out there and fight him. Yeah, they wouldn't put that pressure on Canelo to do it. That's the thing that's odd. But I think Canelo really blew his big chance at a good rematch when he passed up Dimitri Bivol that second time. I was like, he's gonna regret that. There's no way Dimitri Bivol will never give anybody on earth a chance at a rematch after he's beat them at 168. That was the biggest mistake Canelo made. I'm like, yeah, you got to take that fight. And he wasn't asked for a lot of money either. The man was coming down to 168. That was unheard of. Yeah, so once that didn't happen, I knew right then fights like Crawford was definitely possible. But I think probably Eddie Reynoso he probably blew it on that one. If he was in charge for that, he blew it. I'll definitely say that. And 9 times out of 10, one of those guys were. I don't think Canelo called the shots on that one. I think he definitely blew it. Because if you're a trainer or manager and you're Eddie Reynoso and you know that Canelo just had a fight with Bivol at 175, and he's offering to fight you at 68, you got to step in and be like, oh, no, we got to take that fight. That's at 168. That's basically a rehydration clause. And the man said no. It's crazy. So his team is horrible. I hope one day people criticize Canelo's team. Him having big fights and everything, that's cool, but I haven't seen him really progress with the guys he's actually around right now. What's up, Joseph Bailey? Like the team that Terence Crawford has around him, that's a real team. But this guy, Eddie Reynoso, man, he getting a huge pass in boxing right now. Like, who is this guy? Is he related to El Chapo or something? Please let me know. This is the last guy that needs to be everybody needs to be quiet on. I hear reporters talking about Terence Crawford and Bivol and everything else. Man, talk about this Reynoso guy. What has he done to Canelo? Why is Canelo not looking the same? I mean, he needs to answer. He's around Canelo more than anybody else. I can't even ask Canelo's wife because she wouldn't know. She's like, hey, I don't be in the gym. So the only person I can ask right now is Eddie Reynoso. Like, hey, man, what's up with Canelo? Is he not the same or what's going on? I'm hearing everybody come up with different things. Was he not prepared? What about the strategy? This man ain't say nothing. He just went up there, did what he doing in this picture. He said, what do you think about Tank fighting Jake Paul? Is he chasing the bag? I'm gonna do a live on that in the morning. I was actually supposed to do it tonight, but what I'll say about Tank fighting Jake Paul, I think it's cowardly. I think that Tank Davis ducked Terence Crawford. I think that Tank Davis had a high chance of fighting Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford fought in the same weight class as Tank Davis. Tank Davis fought guys who never fought at 135 in their life. But for some reason, a guy like Terence Crawford who fought at 135, he would never give him a chance in the fight. So that lets you know everything you need to know right there. But I think that is getting swept under the rug. The fact that people don't want to address that this man would not jump in the ring with Terence Crawford or even give that a thought lets you know that he's a scary man when it comes to a guy like Terence Crawford. And I'm throwing that out there. Because the biggest fight in boxing right now, if they can make it, would be Terence Crawford versus Tank Davis. That would be the biggest fight in boxing right now. No question. The biggest fight in boxing right now would be Tank Davis versus Terence Crawford. But he'll fight a 147 Mario Barrios from 35 and fight him at 40. And I know Barrios was 40, but come on now. Did Barrios fight at 35? Terence Crawford did. So yeah, he should have looked at that fight with Terence Crawford. People say he had power like that. Make it happen. But if you go in the ring with Terence Crawford, I mean Jake Paul, and you fighting at 154 or something like that, that's a bad look. So he definitely looks like he's chasing the bag. Yeah, he's definitely chasing the bag right now. But Terence Crawford would be a real option at that weight class. I thought about it. I was like, that's not a real fight. But then I said, hold on. Terence Crawford was at 35. Then he was at 40. You had Tank around 130, 140. I've seen Adrian Varner jump up 1 or 2 weight classes, fight Maidana. People would consider Tank Davis a bigger talent than him. Mikey Garcia jumped up 2 weight classes. I think people would consider Tank Davis to be a better talent than him. So I think that him looking at Jake Paul as a serious fight and not an old man like Terence Crawford at this time would be crazy. and you're fighting on the same network. But that's just off topic. But that's what I thought about it though. But we'll get into that a lot more tomorrow. Because he brought the man name up. Because he said something about him. He always says something about Terence Crawford after he fights. Said he'll knock him out of the 7th round. So in boxing these days, if you're going to call people out or make comments about them after one of the biggest fights in boxing, a lot of fans would want you to actually get in the ring with them. You never heard Canelo. You never heard Terence Crawford online talking about somebody, and they haven't called the guy out or tried to make the fight happen. Never seen that happen. Now, if they respond to a question about somebody, yeah. But just randomly talking about a guy after a big win or something like that, nah. That never happens. But yeah, he said Bivol wanted that undisputed at 168 though. Yeah, Bivol tried to give Canelo an opportunity at 168, man. Canelo can't walk that back. That was a blown opportunity. I don't even think Bivol can make 168 now. He's a lot bigger than he was. Even in his last fight with Bitterbill, he got bigger since last October. From October to February, he had got a lot bigger. So it's almost like he was holding off trying to make 168 or something. But he'll never go back to 168. Not at this stage of his career. He's older now. He's not trying to lose that weight. He's even thinking about cruiserweight. So I don't think 168 he'll do. But Terence Crawford, he can do whatever he wants at this point, man. He's already trying to fight everybody anyways. So I don't think him doing whatever he wants is a bad thing. He's not somebody who needs to be motivated. That's why these reporters look crazy. Terence Crawford isn't a fighter who needs to be told, hey, go fight Majramov and go fight. He wasn't even supposed to fight Majramov. Majramov was like plan C. He was supposed to fight Tim Tszyu. Then it was actually supposed to be Spence, Tim Tszyu, then Fundora. So that's how the order was supposed to be. Yeah, that's the order of the fights I was actually looking at, but a lot of people forgot about that. They said that he was trying to fight Majramov and he struggled, but that wasn't the case. He actually was supposed to fight Canelo before Munguia did, but we see now. But I'm glad that fight happened though. A lot of fighters are quiet. They're trying to get in the gym. A lot of reporters are actually nervous because they know that boxing is going in a different direction. You're going to have guys fighting the best all the time. You're going to start to see new boxers more. It's not going to be the same old guys all the time. They're going to try to find out who's the best. Seems like Turkey Al-Sheikh is very serious about what's going on. So, yeah, I like the direction that boxing is going in. And I think that Canelo, no matter what happened in the fight, him taking that fight with Crawford, it changed a lot. It changed a whole lot. When you have reporters out here asking Crawford to fight Dimitri Bivol, yeah, man. Yeah, boxing have changed. It's definitely changed. It's definitely changed. And you can see it now. He said Crawford's journey was challenging and he has developed beautifully over time. It seems that many young fighters today are primarily focused on financial success, quick trash talk, recognition, and belts. Yeah, a lot of guys think, some guys got to do it. I would say I don't like it sometimes, but some guys got to do it. When Floyd was quiet, wasn't really talking, he didn't have a lot of eyes on him. With the same resume that everybody loves, Floyd, they wasn't checking for Floyd like that. It was what it was. He wasn't really like a scary figure or anybody like Mike Tyson was. So he took on the money Mayweather personality. Well, yeah, before that, Floyd wasn't selling though. That's why when people say Floyd messed up the game, you can say that, but promoters were still running boxing. And they knew that at some point people paid to see Floyd lose, so they took advantage of it. That's just all it is, really. That's how I look at it. They just took advantage of people wanting to see him lose. It was nobody else in boxing at that time that people were paying to see somebody lose. So by the time they had people convinced that Canelo at his age, when he was young, that he was going to beat Crawford. I mean, not Crawford, but Mayweather. I said back then, I was like, oh, man, Mayweather got these guys. He had them. Whoever people could find to try to beat this guy, they would find him. Maidana twice. I said, please don't put Maidana here with this guy twice. It's not going to work. I was like, the best chance you had was probably Cotto. But Maidana, no, not twice. But yeah, Crawford is a chill guy, man. He ain't really gonna do too much. If it's a fight out there he wants to take, if it's easy to make, I think with Turkey Al Sheik it would be. But if it's some fights out there that's easy to make, he'll definitely entertain it. I think he just wants to be involved and be able to show people his talent. A lot of people didn't know how good he was until this fight, so I think that's going to do a lot with him actually staying in boxing and not retiring. Feeling some kind of appreciation after 37, 38 years of boxing. Been boxing his whole life, so yeah, after being around almost 30, he's about to turn 38, starting to get his recognition just now. That's why people are kind of worried about him retiring because they know how old he is now. And that's starting to kick in. Reality is like, man, Terence Crawford's an older guy. Yeah, he's not young like you think. But I would say this though, Terence Crawford's his legs and he doesn't move like an older guy, like he's 37, 38. You can kind of tell that age is catching up with some fighters right now, but even younger guys, younger than Crawford. But you can tell with him, his legs are still there. He's moving fast. Even against Canelo, it didn't seem like he was using all his athleticism. Even when he was moving, he wasn't getting tired at all. That's one of the first times I've seen Crawford box 12 rounds and barely, struggle with his breathing. And he's 37, about to be 38, so he is a different kind of boxer. You can't compare a lot of guys to him. What's up, PD? What's going on? Yeah, but I think Eddie Reynoso, him going this long without being questioned about any kind of game plan or strategy for Canelo Alvarez. I know Canelo only lost 3 fights. So this could be, people could be saying, oh, you're over exaggerating. Not really. I've seen guys lose to one opponent and people say he need a new trainer. So this is not really exaggeration. This is pretty normal. But I'm just confused as to why Eddie Reynoso won't be questioned. And I think that's going to be something that held Canelo back in his career. If we're going to have trainers, especially Mexican trainers, that won't be questioned because they're on some kind of code or whatever, bro, these fighters are going to be struggling. I'm going to be honest with you. They're going to be struggling. Because people are not going to say anything until when? Until it's all over. And then people are not saying anything about Canelo until when? Until it's all over. Right now. See, in America, this is why American boxing fans are different. In America, we don't wait until a guy loses. We don't wait until a guy looks very bad and then say, "Oh, you know what? If we see any kind of mistakes or flaws, we're just gonna point it out." That's what I've seen. But a lot of these guys, if they're gonna be fighting in Riyadh season, you're gonna need a trainer that actually is gonna help you and tell you about some strategy. You're not fighting the guys from back in the day. These aren't the guys you can go in there and just throw the same hook and jab with, and you're gonna get by. This is not that type of way of boxing that's going on right now. It's gonna be a lot of situations where guys like Canelo will run into a Dimitri Bivol or Terence Crawford. You just gotta be ready for that style. But the excuse of running that people have been using, it is an excuse. Then it's the excuse of running. If you're a fighter that says guys run, and you're going to be losing at Riyadh season or anywhere else, that's not going to be a good look. And I'm not just saying Canelo or anybody, but when you lose to a guy that people label as a runner, but then you get pummeled or you get walked down by that same fighter, and he stands toe to toe with you, that's why I don't like when guys call people runners, because if I don't put the same energy into that whole topic that everybody did as far as before the fight, or even Canelo entertained that as far as Crawford moving. He was like, "Oh, well, he doesn't move as much anymore." When he fought Majramov, I'm like, dude, how is he a mover? I don't understand that. He's not a mover. Most people don't move when they fight Canelo. That's why William Skull and even Charlo, of course, Charlo, he was a 54, so that made sense. But Amir Khan, same thing. He moved when he fought Canelo. But a lot of guys didn't really move when they fought him. You got a couple of guys, that's just their style. Lara, that's just his style. But a lot of guys weren't really movers. I didn't see Triple G moving that much. So the whole running thing that a lot of these people have been pushing, the reporters been talking about, it's gonna catch up to them. They're gonna start to realize, because they said the same thing about I remember recently when Rayo fought Pitbull. Pitbull was like, man, he was running. But it was two Mexican fighters. So you can't really pick a side on it. So the truth came out. No, he was not running. Just got outboxed. So the standard was set after that to me. If you box like Rayo and the guy's boxing like Pitbull, you're going to lose. Everybody's seen that. So when that started happening a lot more, guys are going to have to point that out. The whole running excuse, it's not going to work. He said, what's up, PD? PD said Reynoso corner work was trash. Yeah, I didn't even understand his Spanish. I didn't have the volume on or nothing. But Reynoso was just standing there just throwing punches like, yeah, just throw a double jab, then throw the hook to the body. I'm like, nah, man, this dude don't know what he's talking about. This man has been robbing Canelo allegedly. Canelo making $150 million in that fight. And Eddie Reynoso is barely raising his voice. You couldn't even hear him talking there. He's just like, yeah. I'm like, okay. That's the guy. Oh, yeah. And then another thing, too, I think Canelo can cut off the ring. He just didn't want to get in that exchange. He seen Crawford throwing that hook. He was like, I'm just not going to try to cut off the ring, man. That's why he tried later on, 9th round, 10th, 11th. Just couldn't do it. Not they saying his body failed. No, his body ain't failed, because Canelo can still go out there and beat up a lot of guys. They trying to make it seem like because he lost to Crawford that he's done. No, Crawford will beat up a lot of guys right now. If you got to tell Crawford to go fight Benavidez or Bivol, trust me, you know that Terence Crawford will beat up everybody. But yeah, I definitely thought Canelo can cut out the ring. It was just he was scared to do it. Once he seen them counters coming back, he was like, "Nah, I ain't trying to. I'm not trying to get hit with that." He took way more chances against William Skull, even though he didn't throw as many punches. I seen the body shots he was throwing against Skull. He was taking some chances. But against Crawford, he didn't take any chances like that. That's something that definitely surprised me. Around the 8th, 9th round, I was like, oh, this guy not taking any chances. Oh, that power is real. Yeah, I was surprised Canelo couldn't fight on the inside either at all. He said fighters that come to box and that can't box and move like Mayweather, Bivol, and Crawford. He said Eddie Reynoso gives his fighters. Yeah, he definitely does that. I mean, man, the guy's been looking bad. Then the young guy they got, the prospect, I gotta go back and watch his fight after I get off of here. But a lot of people didn't like the stoppage he had. It seemed like he was struggling with the guy. Because I seen the guy he was fighting, the first thing I said was, oh yeah, this guy, I don't think this guy's gonna just easily get knocked out. It kind of reminded me, I don't know if it was the same guy. It might have been, but it kind of looked like the guy that Ali Walsh was in the ring with. Might have been the same guy, I don't know. The guy that he actually lost to with the big gloves. But yeah, all those fighters had some bad performances this weekend. It was horrible. Yeah, Eddie Reynoso's looking bad, man. He got to do something better than what he's doing now. But as a trainer, though, he doesn't get any criticism. And I'm just looking for. I haven't seen any. He gets a lot of praise, but bro has like the worst 2-year run right now in boxing. The last 2 years, it's been bad for him. Then he didn't start off the year good with the Munguia situation. Like, man, how many careers can he mess up in 1 year before people say, hey, man, what is this guy doing? And I'm talking about inside the ring. I ain't even talking about outside the ring yet. Yeah, that's crazy. If you're a real fan of boxing, though, you actually hold the trainer accountable. But you know what? These people do some weird things. Like, this is why I say, and you know, people don't like when you speak up about certain things, but this is why I get upset and I say things is very weird in boxing. When you have a fighter like Wilder, who's not considered the face of boxing to most people, but everybody would say, oh, he needs to get this trainer, that trainer, that trainer, that trainer, that trainer. After losing to one opponent, not losing to 50 different opponents. We're talking about losing to one guy. Oh, get this trainer and that trainer. But then you have a guy like Canelo, who's the face of boxing, who everybody should be in his business. It should be everybody in Canelo's business. Nobody should be worrying about everything a Deontay Wilder is doing. The face of boxing, that should be everybody's priority. But nobody cares about his trainer strategy or anything. The man can go out there and lose rounds, and they're like, oh, that just comes with it. You know, he just got the power. Now they're saying, oh, the power gone. So when the power leaves, he trash. So he can't do what Floyd do. I mean, Mikey Garcia wasn't a power puncher. Canelo can't do that. I don't know if people understand how much of an insult that is. That these people are out here saying that if this man's power is gone, he can't go out there and outbox nobody. The guy, Let me tell y'all something. Didn't J Rock just walked off the street recently and went the distance with the tight ass guy who recently lost. I'm pretty sure his body been breaking down. He been in wars. He ain't fought no easy fights. Then people say, man, Canelo been in a lot of wars. I should look up a stat, but I'm gonna save it for later on. I'm gonna look up a stat though later on because I want to look up certain things when it comes to how many miles Canelo actually has on him. Because I don't know if he has the miles on him like people actually saying. Because in the era that he's fighting in, it's considered a weak era and considered an era where nobody's actually fighting each other. So nobody's really been in any wars. I don't want to disrespect boxing to say nobody's been in tough fights. But from what I've seen on the scope of things, people say he hasn't been in any wars really. Even Chavez said he needs a couple of wars. So ain't no way he been in some wars. If Chavez Sr. just said recently Canelo need like 1 or 2 wars, then he'll be considered one of the best of all time. Probably greatest Mexican, but he needs like 2 wars. A fight like this and a fight like against Benavidez. That's basically what he's saying, but he didn't want to say it. He was saying that if Canelo can fight somebody like Crawford and Benavidez, oh yeah. That's what he was saying. If Canelo was smart, he would have just fought those guys 2 or 3 years ago. And nobody would have cared what he was doing right now. And he still would have been making big money with certain fights, but I think he went in the wrong direction, man. Once that Berlanga fight got made, I said, man, this dude's not going to get better. No way. There's no way you're going to fight a guy who never been champion, go the distance with him, and you getting better. Terence Crawford, he getting better. As we seen, he used that Majramov fight to get better at the age of 37. It's just a lot of people didn't think he was actually going to try to get better at this age. They're thinking that he's just the same fighter with no power and everything else. And he showed that he doesn't use his power all the time. Doesn't have to use his power all the time either. He said, what do I think of Parker versus Wardley? I think that's a good fight. I think that Moses Atama and Wardley, I don't understand that situation because I know why Moses Atama went the direction he went, but Moses Atama should have just fought Wardley in my eyes. Instead of Wardley going in the direction of fighting Big Baby and then ended up fighting Justice Huni instead of Big Baby. I was hoping he would have fought Moses Atama, but Moses fighting Dillian White was still a good matchup. It was a better matchup, but for that Parker fight, I would have definitely liked to see Moses Atama fight Wardley for that spot. But with Parker, man, I just think he has too much experience. I don't think a lot of guys can beat Joseph Parker. It has to be an elite fighter. Now, Wardley has the power, and he's a lot different from the other guys that Parker fought before. And Parker kind of struggles with guys with Wardley style. So I would say Wardley has a chance to actually get something done if you look at it, but I haven't looked at it too much. But Benavidez versus Yard gonna be a war though. Yeah, Dimitri Bivol. You said Dimitri Bivol should have made him better. Yeah, he should have, man. He didn't learn from it. Did not learn from it at all. I just don't see Eddie Reynoso making guys better. I said it recently when I was like, I had to think about it. When the whole sparring with Boost was going on, I thought, I was like, man, have Canelo ever made any fighters better? And not that I know of, probably have as far as sparring, but working with them one on one, I just don't know. Yeah, Munguia didn't make him better either. Shoot, they didn't help Munguia either. They kind of ruined his situation. Well, they said he's clean now, so they've done that whole situation of Munguia being clean after the fight he had with Team Canelo. So I guess they're moving on from that. But Reynoso, man, he has a long way to go to recover. We got to see if he's still going to continue to work with Munguia. We got to see if reporters are going to hold him accountable for dropping the ball on a lot of these fighters. Because he has a lot of talented Mexican fighters, but man, get him with something. Get those guys with somebody else, man. I seen after that Oscar Valdez fight, I said Valdez didn't even have a chance against Navarrete. No strategy. It was no motivation. That's why Oscar Valdez went over there with Manny Robles. Went back with him, the trainer who he was with previously. And that's the same guy who was training Andrew Ruiz when he knocked out Anthony Joshua. But I think he's a better trainer than Eddie Reynoso. A better Mexican trainer? Yeah, absolutely. Not even close. And he's done more with less. The man has done more with less. He said he might have to retire before Canelo. Yeah, he might have to. He definitely might have to. I'm looking at it now. I'm like, man, Reynoso got a long way to go because he still got the Rodriguez guy, Francisco Rodriguez. If he still continue working with him, he got to help his career get back on board. The man failed 2 straight tests. Then you got to help Munguia get back on board after that. He got a win, but he still lost last year. And that whole situation they had going on still don't look good. No matter what anybody says. Still does not look good. Then Canelo losing this way. Not this way, but well, yeah, actually this way. Canelo losing this way. And the way he fought against William Skull. I just feel like he's just been on cruise control for a while now, to be honest with you. He's just been on cruise control. And everybody else has been already fighting fights like this. There's a lot of guys that already been fighting tough fights. That's why Terence Crawford is showing now, hey, at this age I'm at, it's going to be hard for these guys to even get to the age I'm at now and still continue to box. I'm not surprised that a lot of people asking Canelo to hang it up. Because every time Terence Crawford fights somebody, people want those guys to retire. Because Terence Crawford beats these guys so bad that people don't even believe in these guys no more. Do people understand how bad somebody has to get beat for these guys to be champions? And for a whole fan base to be like, oh yeah, that guy needs to hang it up. Every fighter he fights needs to hang it up. And I made a video probably 2-3 weeks ago and I said, Terence Crawford is a career killer. This guy's killing careers. And people was like, oh man, you're just exaggerating. Because this fight is coming up, trying to hype it up. I'm like, okay. These people actually don't know this guy's ending careers right now. If you look at it, none of the people he's fighting is active right now doing anything. These guys were living life, driving convertibles, everything. Now a lot of these guys trying to get back in the ring. Yeah, I don't think people understand what Terence Crawford is doing out here. He's ending careers, like putting them on pause right now. That's why I'm not surprised that people are saying Canelo. You got to think about it. Canelo has never had anybody jump in the ring with him and forced his whole fan base to say, "Oh yeah, you got to hang it up. You're not the same guy." So that kind of lets you know when people are out here comparing who got whooped worse, or I think Bivol did better. Well, I don't know. I don't. Dimitri Bivol didn't make you say Canelo needs to retire. That's for sure. He probably got beat up, but he didn't make you say, "Oh, Canelo needs to retire." Those are different kind of beatings. I don't know everybody explaining that out here in public or not the right way, but if anytime a guy makes you want to retire after one beating that goes 12 rounds, that lets you know that was a bad, bro. That was a bad whooping you took. I think that's if Terence Crawford has any reputation in boxing, he needs to be remembered as a guy that was stopping careers on the drop of a dime. No matter what these reporters are saying, Floyd or Dimitri Bivol, that's cool. You can compare it. Hey, you can say Terence Crawford, he could be top 20 or whatever you want to do. When he boxed, he ended careers. He made fans stop believing. Think about that. That man beats up fighters so bad, the fans stop believing in that same fighter the same night. And we talking about the strongest fan bases in boxing. What fan base? I ain't gonna say Terence Crawford destroyed a fan base, but I'm saying for uh lack of better words, what fan base has he not destroyed? Man destroyed the strongest fan bases in boxing. I mean, people don't even believe in these guys no more. I told everybody, quit telling people to get in the ring with Terence Crawford. You can't be ducking people when you're ending careers. And we're not talking about just regular fighters and cab drivers. We're talking about guys who are champions, who've been the best for the last 20 years in their life. And now they're showing up in pro boxing in one fight. They're not the same against a guy that people say don't have power. If that's not impressive, I don't know what is. Yeah, Terence Crawford out here got platforms. He got PBC ever since he beat Earl Spence. PBC that moved from Amazon to the Zone. They got fights on Netflix. Yeah, he busting up companies like Tetris right now. So that's one reason why a lot of guys didn't want Terence Crawford to fight their fighters. They're like, please let me make some money. Yeah, if Terence Crawford fights your fighter, his career is over. I think a lot of people have known that already. They just didn't want to say that out loud. But that's just kind of what's going on right now. He's dangerous. That's why I say people say, "Oh, this black fighter needs to get in the ring with Crawford." Bro, it's not a game right now, man. That's the wrong guy to be playing with right now. If Canelo can't get in the ring with him and continue his career, everybody else needs to fall back. It is what it is. It is what it is. If you want to make your last paycheck, jump in the ring with Terence Crawford. Get tough. Matter of fact, set up a sparring match. Cause I ain't gonna lie, ever since I seen that video of what's the old boy name? Carlos Adames. When I seen him sparring Terence Crawford, ever since then, the dude been looking better in the ring. I'm like, I don't know what he's seen in the ring with Terence Crawford that day, but this guy been beasting lately. That just goes to show how good he is. But if the guy doesn't get credit, man, after this win, it's gonna be hard for these younger fighters. They already know it. A lot of fans now they're gonna think that Undisputed is easy because a lot of reporters haven't really showed how important Undisputed actually is. They didn't even talk about Canelo being two-time undisputed. Canelo being two-time undisputed is probably the least talked about thing in boxing that I've seen this year. He hasn't been called two-time undisputed a lot of times because that William Skull fight wasn't something to brag about. People can say what they want about who they thought won and what William Skull was doing, but when I seen that people didn't want to brag about that performance, that was a red flag. And then you're going into a fight with Terence Crawford. It's just not good, man. Just not good. So I think that the first thing we're going to see in this era is a lot of guys not being prepared, whether it's the opponents they fighting or lack of activity, like Caleb Plant recently when he lost to the guy and he didn't really look good. Then he looked bad the fight before. Guys aren't really active, man. Fighting one time a year is really catching up to a lot of fighters. This is not something that's normal in boxing history. These guys are probably going to be the least active fighters in the last 20, 30 years. If you really look at it, Bitterbill just got 19 fights? 19, 20 fights? Yeah, so we don't have a lot of fights in boxing right now. Morrell has just hit 12 fights? Something like that. Yeah, so the activity got to go up a lot more. Even Terence Crawford, I look at Terence Crawford recently. Man, fought 5 times in the last 5 or 6 years. And most fans would say, oh, he's not even trying to be active. But if you look at it, everybody's not active. There's other guys on other promotional teams that's not fighting either. I think Charlo and Crawford was fighting like 1 time a year or something. So all of that's been going around for a minute. And a lot of that had to do with the pandemic, but we already had some issues before that. Because Dana White was trying to set up a McGregor versus Crawford fight a long time ago. That's why I knew Terence Crawford wasn't chasing paydays. But he got Canelo a payday. He definitely got the Canelo a payday. But yeah, man, I appreciate everybody for coming through. I'm gonna be back on in the morning. About the other topic I had. Got some more news coming out. But I just want to come on here real quick, chop it up with everybody. I appreciate everybody for coming through on the live, man. Appreciate everybody for hitting the like. I'll be back on tomorrow.